Well, welcome everyone. It's wonderful to reach out across such a broad spectrum of I would imagine people in their homes, uh, all of us in a sort of a quarantine or reduced state right now of activity. Let's begin as we always begin with a brief bit of sitting, um, a little bit shorter time than we might ordinarily do if we were sitting in the Zen dome, to give time for folks who want to connect. But let's begin. Let's listen to the bell as we center, become stable and silent and attentive to each other. And as we all together begin to settle into the simplified space of silence and stillness, it's not so much a time to drift away into some special state of consciousness, but it's more an invitation to come home to the natural state of steady, silent presence and open ourselves to this vast shared intention that is spreading literally across the globe at this moment. Know that you're sitting in a vast zendo, a vast meditation hall, but it's the shared intention, the connection of our hearts and minds, which opens the space. And we open to both the beauty and the heartache. We sit as a container for it all and see the way in which they create each other, the beauty, the magnificence, and the struggles and the difficulty, and how they deepen each other. And I'll repeat a very traditional, brief dedication for practice, which reminds us of the importance of this shared activity. We would often say, may our intentions equally permeate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. So may our shared intentions equally permeate the entire world, every being and every place, with the true merit of Buddha's way. Merit is an ancient idea that whatever goodness, whatever positive energy is created by our sitting, by our intentions, would go out and support those in need, not stay here with us. It's not for our own benefit, for the benefit of all. It's nice to even sit like this virtually for a few minutes with each other. It's certainly a beautiful way to start my morning, because for me, it's just a bit past 7:30 a.m. out here in the middle of the Pacific. Um, it's somewhat later in the morning or midday in the middle of the United States, and evening in the UK or in Europe. I was reflecting on what I might speak about to just invite our conversations today, invite our meetings. And in the face of what we're all living in right now, it's difficult to know what to say, but there is the universal question of, will our practice actually help us? It's an ongoing question, but right now it seems to be um, particularly powerful. How do we meet these times is a real question, and everybody feels the force of it. And we have to remember it's an ancient question. People have always asked the same question: what's going to help? What's going to help? Because it just comes along with being human, just as our practices do. Will it help with a virus pandemic? Will it help with the economy? Will it help with our tumultuous political situations, with the frightening realities of the environment? Will it help in my family? Will it help my own heart? I wondered last week, would I get home without contracting the virus? So these questions are really personal, of course. 1 week in, 1 week back at home, so far so good, but you never know. Many of you know that I offered a Dharma talk last Friday on behalf of the Ecumenical Buddhist Society in Little Rock, as an offering, since we had to cancel that retreat and I returned home. The focus of that talk was on beginner's mind and Suzuki Roshi's book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Afterwards, Cheryl Woodard, who is the chair and director of the meditation center there, who some of you saw online, she sent me a small note. She said that her brother, George, had actually met Suzuki Roshi a couple of times when he was alive. And in one moment, in one meeting, actually had a dokusan, which is the word we use in Zen tradition for a private meeting with the teacher. And in this case, usually a bell is rung and the student comes in and sits with the teacher, asks their question, and when they're finished, the bell rings and they leave, just like we do an inquiry in a way. And she said, George told her that this was the interaction. And George was asking Suzuki Roshi this question: will our practice help? He sat in front of Roshi and said, if I meditate, will I feel less sad? And Suzuki Roshi looked at him and said, what's wrong with sad? And then rang the bell. a brief answer, maybe a surprising one, but it opens this question: will our practice help? If I meditate, will I? And then you have your question. And Suzuki Roshi says, what's wrong with this life? What's wrong with this moment? My psychotherapy mentor, who seemed to be a kind of a disguised version of a Zen master, John Gladfelter, and towards the end of our time together before he died, I asked him once, do you have a philosophy or a stance towards life that guides you? So I had trained with him for 35 years, often monthly in consultation groups for 25 of those years. He was my PhD coordinator for my dissertation. He had helped raise me, really. So I knew a lot about how he approached the world and had trained with him psychologically. But I said, is there a philosophy? He said, yeah. And he said, expect nothing, appreciate everything. Now, it's easy to say this as a philosophical statement. But what about now? What about all of this? What about me? What about all of us? The gratitude part, appreciate everything, is really a foundation of every wisdom tradition and shows up in every deep spiritual system. Gratitude is essential. In fact, it's the platform for DeWitt Jones, my wonderful dear friend and neighbor, in his Celebrate What's Right with the World. And we should. Appreciation is fundamental to the robust kind of energy that keeps us going. But the expecting nothing part is a little bit harder. And this is where a Buddhist practice really begins to uproot our sense of entitlement. In response to a young therapist in a consultation group one time, John Gladfelter, the man that I'm speaking about, this young man was talking about what he deserved as a result of his efforts and in his work. And John said, you don't deserve anything. You get what you get. Now, it was a little punchy, but it was a strong slap, as it were, into our sense of entitlement. And all of us can feel some of this these days, I would imagine. You look at what you're losing, what you thought you were promised, something as simple and direct as maybe your retirement fund. Wait a minute, I worked hard for that. Why is it slipping away? Or the ability to see loved ones. So many things. Each of us has our list. But there's an ancient koan, and some of you who are familiar with the Zen tradition understand that koans are these old stories. They're just stories of teachers and students usually that have survived because they offer us something to chew on and really, really help us. And there is an ancient koan suitable for our time. A student says, this is the same theme, when times of great difficulty visit us, how should we meet them? And the teacher said, welcome. Welcome? You know, if you look at the definition of welcome in the dictionary, it says to greet in a friendly way. Well, how do we welcome all of this? Some of you may remember having seen my TED talk from a few years ago. I began with saying, my message is not about changing the world. It's about how to navigate a world that never seems to stop changing. And this is where we find ourselves. Many of you who practice at Appamada also know that there is a small verse that we sometimes repeat, a chant that is full of deep teachings. It's a poetic reflection of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. And it goes like this: caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. So caught in the self-centered dream, if we're clinging to our sense of entitlement, what we think things should be, if we cling to it too much, we're just going to suffer. And if we hold to the ideas, it shouldn't be this way, it must be a different way, then that's the dream that keeps the cycle of suffering going. But that third line, each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Each moment, welcome. Not welcome as in, hooray, a pandemic, or whatever the difficulty we're finding. The welcome is like, oh, now this. And this is what Suzuki Roshi was speaking about in Beginner's Mind. Can I let go of my preconceived ideas? Can I soften my expectations and see what's actually happening so that I can respond appropriately? And if that response means I'm deeply grieving, then I grieve fully. If I'm really sad, like George was asking about, then I feel my sadness. If I'm joyful, I'm joyful. If I need to do something and help someone, then I can do that. But it's based on what's actually happening, not my ideas, not my hopes, dreams, whatever delusions I might be living in. And that last line, being just this moment, being in accord with this moment, then that's the way of compassion. That's the way of meeting suffering and not falling off and getting caught back in another self-centered dream. So how do I meet the world that's challenging? Welcome. And then find whatever comes up. It doesn't mean you might feel equanimous, happy, joyful, but you can meet each of those feelings also. I'll stop just for a second. John Tarrant, a Zen teacher who some of you know about and who I quote sometimes, he said this: not knowing, similar to Beginner's Mind, not knowing is what emptiness tastes like. It's also what welcome tastes like. We never know what will arrive next. Dreadful events can lead to wonderful events, and the other way around. It's always too early to despair. It's always too early to despair. Welcome means not reaching a verdict on our lives. It's intimate and beautiful not to know, to be vulnerable, not to be stronger than our situation. We can feel our way. We can grope along in the velvety dark, and each step will be true, and each step will be ours. So let's meet for a bit and see what steps you're taking, what steps you might want to take, what steps are most difficult to take, what steps require courage to take. So we ready with anyone raising their hand? Jessica and John Eric?
So far, we don't see any hands raised. So just a reminder, a little hand icon on the bottom of your screen. Okay, there we have someone.
There's Trudy.
Okay.
Trudy and Josh.
Trudy and Josh.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you. And I'll say for those who are watching, it's from Lancaster, Northern England, our beautiful leaders for the Nothing Missing. Sometimes can't remember which nothing it is.
We've got a lot of nothing here.
That's right. Trudy is at this moment the head student for the larger sanghas in the UK, and Josh will be entrusted in the Appamada lineage as a teacher. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
We had the cat here a moment ago, but he's gone.
Oh, yes. One of my friends that likes to crawl on, especially me and Josh, right? What is
So
on your hearts and minds today?
I didn't have, as I often don't, I didn't have a question, but it was something about wanting to express the gratitude I feel for the practice that allows me to welcome the degree of uncertainty that we have and the degree of grief
Yes.
and loss and joy. I'm loving the amount of connection that people are offering so generously.
It's actually heightened. It's interesting, isn't it?
It really does feel like we've refound community.
Yeah, yeah.
And that feels like that's one of the, I love that line, like it's never too late to despair. It's never too early to do
Early to
whatever it
despair.
was.
Yes, and never too early to come to despair. And that weaving of beauty and heartache,
Yeah.
finding that they inform each other.
Yeah. So I was just, it was just so nice to see you, knowing we're not going to see you in May, and
Yes.
maybe I'm going to be perpetually and forever the head student.
We'll sort that out. But that is one of the deep losses, is that for the first time in however many years, I won't see you.
10, 11 years.
Yeah, in 11 years, I won't be there. So we'll connect in this way, and we'll work out how to for me to be part of the retreat that you'll have virtually there.
So I wanted to say thank you to the wider Appamada community for putting all these things on and the sense of connection that we have. So it was more that just wanting to say hello and thank you, and we're finding ways to welcome everything that's coming.
Yes, I would also mention to others, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can look up a poem that Trudy introduced me to. I had not read it before, W.S. Merwin's, I think it's entitled Listen.
Listen, yeah.
It's about thank you in the face of all the difficulties. It's a tough go, but it's about this deep thing that you're expressing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
I would like to thank you, Flint, for supporting us all to be so robust here in the UK.
Well, I know you're challenged, as we are, in so many ways, not only with the virus, but your political situation, with economic situation. It's really hard, I know. So to see your faces and to feel your care and see your beautiful smiles, it's really heartening to me.
For us too.
Us too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad everybody gets to meet you.
Yeah.
Me too. It's nice, these moments in between. Georgia.
Oh, I wasn't sure what all I needed to do to to join in.
You're here in your beautiful backyard in South Austin.
Yes, and Bruno's under the chair, and Bobble's right here too. So Bruno's at the
And for those of you that don't mind, don't know, those aren't children; those are dogs. So,
oh, they are children.
They are children. A child that we took care of in his early days, now lives with her mom and everybody. So,
yeah.
How are you?
I am very well. Struggling with allergies down here in Austin that mimic coronavirus, except for the fever. So,
oh dear.
Yeah.
That's a little disturbing when you feel the. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sitting here really grateful at remembering back to some of the first inquiries that I participated in with you.
Sure.
And really grateful that I've got this lovely community down here in my neighborhood. We had a little community garden session, and that I've got a partner who's with me and supporting me and reminding me to not hug and wash hands and those kinds of things.
Yes, yes.
And yet I'm also struggling with sharing space and with with resenting that, that business phone call going on in the front of the house that's disturbing my peace and quiet, or someone just there all the time. And so I'm struggling with that a
Mhm.
little bit, and how to maintain my gratitude and maintain equanimity when I want to
Kick him out.
yeah.
Well, this is like all of us, we have our list, and this is on your list of the new curriculum. How to live this close with someone. How to,
Right.
yeah. And how
and to truly let them in.
That's right. To take the time that you need, even when someone is there, and to welcome, once again, the welcome. This is a very, I know it's kind of a much heavier analogy than I could use otherwise, but what came to mind is, because I was just looking at some things about some of the refugee camps, and the way people are jammed together, and thinking, oh my gosh, how would I manage that? Because I'm blessed to have space, and but so to feel the gratitude even for this, that we're safe and we have adequate things. I know it's not the old thing of you should be grateful for, you're not a starving child, but there is a kind of a gratitude that is important to remember, that you have goodness close by.
I do.
And to negotiate. I need some quiet time, it's just a normal everyday thing. But
I think that's my struggle, and is remembering to claim what it is that I need in a loving way, and not
push away.
And not push away. Yeah. Not just shut down and push away. So anyway,
you have a partner who knows who you are.
Yes.
He knows that you're an independent person who has a lot of time on her own usually. So I'm sure he understands that.
I need to voice it better, and voice it with gratitude for for everything that he provides me, and everything that all of the good that I get.
That's the turnaround, is if you can not deny the part of you that has a yearning for what you want, to say it, but put your energy into the gratitude. It's kind of like one of my teachers one time. I said, if I'm super discouraged, what do I do? And he said, encourage others. It's turning it around back to the goodness.
Well, I've been struggling with this for a little bit, and the other day I did my therapy in clay, and I made a Mobius strip thinking about what you have said before. So I did a Mobius, thinking, okay, turn it around. Yeah.
And if people aren't sure what George is talking about, if you watch the TED Talk, you'll see what the example is.
Yeah. So thank you, and I really appreciate the encouragement, and thank you to all of you at the wider Appamada.
Is Bruno there?
He is. Come, Bruno. Bruno, come.
Oh, that's okay. If he's not there, that's all right.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
Well, he's
Here,
gone.
I'll let Bobble say hi.
Okay.
Bruno
Thank you.
Oh, Flint, he's just come.
Okay.
Come, Bruno. Come, Bruno.
And for those of you who don't know, this was our dog for a while, but he remained in Austin. We moved to Hawaii. Hi,
there
Bruno.
he is. Hi. Love from Austin.
Bye-bye. Annabelle.
Stop video. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, Oh, hello.
And Doug also.
Hello.
Hello.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes, yes.
I just
Are
want-
you at home in the UK?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. We're in Nantwich, which is a small town, about 2 hours south of Lancaster.
Ah, okay.
And I just wanted to experience this complete miracle, which is kind of being with you across the world.
Yes.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful to see your faces. How are you doing, Annabelle? How is your health?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just go.
It's airy silence outside.
Yeah.
That people are attending to the gardens,
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
but we're not really. We're supposed to stay in or self-isolate as much as possible.
Yeah, or if you're out, at least not come in contact with people.
And
That's it.
yes, yes.
Yes. So everyone is having a lot more, like Georgie was just saying, turning toward your partner and you're
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah. We'll find out in the weeks to come.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
But you're both healthy so far. That's good.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine, thank you. Just really sorry you can't come, and
I know. I'm heartbroken that I'm not going to be able to be there.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
this is amazing that we can. Well, we've seen Trudy and Josh, and
Yeah.
just
Yes.
part of this is just incredible.
Yeah.
Yes. And that you're meeting new people in the larger Sangha
Yeah.
everywhere.
Astonishing.
Yeah.
It's very heartening. And for those of us out here on a small island, you all get to come visit here too.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
So
Stay
thank-
healthy, stay well.
Yeah, likewise.
Likewise.
Yes, and thank you for saying hello. So encouraging just to see the beautiful faces and all the gratitude that's moving among us. And Kathy and Madison.
Yeah, there was a step in between that I wasn't expecting.
Oh,
So
good. I
But
can't
it-
remember. Were you on last week?
I was.
The reason I said is I wanted other people to know that weren't here last time that Kathy will be the incoming head student
That's right.
for the Madison Sangha for Open Doors Zen Community. A wonderful, wonderful long-time student. So thank you.
Thank you. So you were talking about meeting what arises, and I wanted to share something. My great niece, who is 17, put on YouTube a thank you letter to coronavirus.
Oh yeah?
And it's absolutely amazing. And it's like my experience, and I think this is what's happening in general. It's like meeting her again for the first time, to take advantage of the book that talks about Jesus, meeting Jesus again for the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah. Marcus Borg's wonderful book.
Right. But it's like I've met Kelly again for the first time in this incredibly profound and rich way. And I just find it, I don't know, it's awe-striking. I'm struck with awe.
Who knew this little girl
That's right.
would come forward as a young woman with such wisdom?
That's right.
Will you
And
send the link to me so I can send it to others?
yeah, I will. I'd be glad to. It's just profound. And and I think that's happening in lots of little ways as I negotiate this life, right? Meeting things again for the first time.
Well, everything seems to be, not everything is strong, but lost.
Right.
What comes out?
Right.
What comes back? It's like the winter when everything goes dormant and goes dead, it seems. But in the spring, which we're in now, what then comes out of it?
Right. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Something new and fresh.
Right.
Mhm.
So I wanted to share that because we had not a video, but a a sit on Wednesday night, and Suzanne led it. And Suzanne is one of the people at the Open Door Zen community, Sangha, for people who don't know that. And one of the questions she asked is, what is our aspiration during this time?
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself thinking that my aspiration is not to lose this sense of wonder, because it's amazing to be alive during this time with all its horrors. It's amazing to be alive during this time. And I said, I'm hoping that Ken Burns is already planning the documentary because it'll be fascinating. And I hope I'm around to see such a thing. But so that's what I want.
Not to lose. What is it that you don't want to lose? I want you to say it again.
Sense of wonder.
The sense of wonder.
It's
I received an email letter recently from one of my dear, dear, dear friends, who was actually my kind of buddy brother in all those groups with John Gladfelter, the man I was mentioning earlier,
right.
my mentor.
Right.
Mac. And he and his wife, he's a bit older than I am, and he and his wife, they did what Aaron and I did. They left Austin a number of years ago, 10 years, and they moved to Italy.
Okay. Oh.
So they live in Florence, and this summer he'll be 80 years old.
Okay.
So high risk group. They live in Florence.
Yes.
And he was writing about some of the things that were going on, and how difficult it was, and what it was to live in such a thing. But he mentioned, and I think many people online will have seen or heard some of the beautiful videos of people singing from their balconies or this and that, But he mentioned one that I hadn't heard of, and I don't think was posted. He said at one point, on one day, all of the churches in all of Florence rang their bells at the same time for a certain sequence. So you can imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah.
And everyone came out and they knew this was happening. And when the bells went silent in that huge space, everyone began to applaud for the healthcare workers all across the city. So it brought tears to my eyes to think of such a powerful expression of gratitude. And I can remember a moment sitting in a restaurant 15 more years ago, I think. Mac had kidney cancer, but he'd had surgery and he seemed to be cured from that and remains healthy. But for a year after, he was in this rare state of wonder because he'd survived and he'd come to the edge. And he said, after a year, I can feel myself losing it.
Yeah.
And so your aspiration is not to lose.
It's not to lose that sense of
the very thing. So,
right. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. It's good to see you.
Yes.
These moments in between are small meditations, just breathing, sitting in stillness. Sasha from Minneapolis.
Hi, Flint.
Hello, Sasha. Well, you're not at school.
I'm working from home.
That's right. Sasha is a school principal for middle school?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Flint. Thank you for sharing. It's good to see. It's good to hear from others as well. My question is, and wonder and desire, I guess, is how to wake up from that, a dream that won't stop, the self-centered dream.
Uh-huh.
And in the moment, perhaps where I'm not in that dream, it's so difficult to avoid how others are putting you back in. Oh, they're not putting me back in, but everyone's
inviting you.
Yes, they're inviting me, and I'm saying, come on over, right?
That's right.
Because everyone has the same common topic or common suffering. And
one of the most powerful invitations are called news feeds. Watching the news.
Yes.
But to get to your question very precisely, when you look in the screen and you see my eyes,
yeah,
and I see your eyes, At this just in this moment, are you caught?
No.
No, why not?
I don't know. I'm looking you in the eyes. I don't
Are you
know.
hearing my voice?
Yes.
You're feeling something about what we have. We have a relationship. We've met
Yes.
before. And so I think the question about how do we step out of the self-centered dream on our own is pretty challenging.
Mm,
And you mentioned how we can be invited back into the self-centered dream by others. So that can be challenging.
yeah.
But a moment of looking at the sky, hearing a bird, a beautiful tree, a spring bud there in Minnesota, the sound of a child's voice from the school, looking at friends. I don't think it's something that you can like do yourself very easily, but you have to be, the practice is, where do you put your focus?
Mm,
It will call you back. Because if we're just sort of not attentive, the automatic nature and the habits come back. So doing what you're doing right now,
yeah.
making sure that you're online, listening to the other people, raising your hand, connecting in this moment, you step out of the dream. Even if it's still running.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything else remaining? Is that touch the place that wanted to be touched?
Hmm. The fear of not knowing what to do next, because it was always a reliance on past experience, and now there is nothing to rely on. I never had. That's a brand new experience of having a distant learning and being principal of school from home.
That's right. And it's the foundation of Zen practice, isn't it? There's another old story in which one of the classic ancestors in the Chinese tradition, Dijong, he's the teacher, and Feian is the student. Those are just the names. They're not complicated Russian names, they're Chinese names, you know. So one of them, Feian, is getting himself ready, putting his sandals on and his hat and his staff in. And Dijong says, where are you going? And Feian says, well, I'm going to go on a pilgrimage. You know, he was going to walk to different temples to practice on pilgrimage. And Dijong says, well, what's the purpose of a pilgrimage? See, now he turns it.
Yeah.
And Feian said, I don't know. And Dijong said, not knowing is most intimate.
Right.
And in this case, intimacy is like another word for awakening. In the not knowing, like beginner's mind,
Yeah.
something new is possible. And it's a not knowing that isn't mean stupidity or ignorance. It's not that, it's beyond not having an answer. It's the fertile ground for something new to be possible, just like what we're doing. So you might find in this curriculum that now you have, working as a school principal from home, you may find things that permanently change the way that you're a principal in a good way.
Yeah.
Let that be a possibility. It's always too early to despair.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
I hope things go well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And Clayton from Austin?
Can you see me?
Not yet.
Oh.
But you may come in a moment.
Okay.
I just see your name.
Okay. Oh, okay.
There you are. Yeah, I do.
I'm blown away by the power of seeing everyone across the country and in Europe,
Across the world.
in the UK. It's very touching, and I feel really close to our Austin song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just feeling a lot because
Sure.
it's so comforting. And I keep on putting my hand in my heart because it kind of hurts. But
That's what I did when I first saw Josh and Trudy, remember?
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. And I'm only crying because it's just, I think I keep things pretty cool, but I can really remember, I can feel walking into our Sangha here and all those sweet faces. So I just wanted to say hi to everybody in our Sangha that I love. And I do worry about those of you who are alone. And please reach out. But I can see you all. And if I were in the Sangha right now, I would reach out and I would touch Cassie on the back. And I would get some great hugs. And I know that's all there for all of us. But my question is, like, I know this has lots of teachers in it, and this whole experience, and there is wonder and there is joy, and I feel like almost every encounter, like, because I traveled when you were traveling, Flint, I had to miss my dad's 80th birthday, like you had to miss your dad's.
Yeah.
But my children made him some crazy cool art. And I happened to have some Lysol wipes and all these and some presents for him. So I made him this big care package and drove to San Antonio and I put it on his doorstep. And then I had to stand really far back because he's 80 and I need to stand back anyway. And it was raining and the intensity of feeling, you know, like I don't know when I'll see you.
Yeah, that's what I felt too.
And I'm only crying because I'm used to feeling it, but to actually articulate it and say it to you, someone I love, and expose myself to everyone else, the intensity of it is just a lot.
It is.
And, you know, sitting is good and walking and doing yoga, but I know that this pain, it's not even pain, it's just like this intense clutching feeling has something to teach me, but it's also really hard.
Well, it's part of the grief that Trudy mentioned also, of that arc of energy between you and your dad as you stood back is the bridge, you know, that we want to maintain of love and connection. And it's full of beauty and it's full of tears and it's full of longing and it's full of gratitude. Is that channel opens, everything can flow. So that's why we do this. And you're showing us that.
But it's hard to have it open. It feels a little overwhelming sometimes.
Yep, it does. It is overwhelming sometimes. And that to navigate that stream, sometimes the rapids are pretty rough and sometimes the current is very strong. So that's why we practice, and that's also why we need each other.
It's true. And I love y'all for offering this to us, because it's hard sometimes to keep this stuff to myself. And I trust you, and I can see our room. I can see Margaret's face sitting in a chair. I can see Joel's face. I can see all those beautiful faces. And it's very, it's a gift of what y'all have created, so that we can all, even though we're apart, we can still feel all that. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for coming forward so wholeheartedly.
Well, I don't mean to cry. It's just the intensity of feeling right now is a lot.
Remember Suzuki Roshi? What's wrong with crying?
Right. I love that. And what's wrong with being sad? And the only thing that's wrong with being overwhelmed with emotion is if, like, it starts to cripple your sense of wonder and joy. So
But you know what it also does is that it invites all of us to care for you. So it's a gift.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you out there for being here for me.
Thanks, Clayton. Speaking of San Antonio, Clayton was just speaking about taking something to her dad in San Antonio, and here you have Penelope in San Antonio. I don't think I have any audio for you, Penelope. Can't hear you. You're unmuted, so I don't know why. Just bow. Take our love with you. Okay. I love when the word Appamada comes on the screen because it looks like the entire song is going to show up. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Can you hear me?
I can, and say your name
Okay.
since your name didn't show up on there.
Oh, I'm Vivian. Yeah.
Vivian.
Okay.
And where are you?
I live in Llano, Texas. I used to live in Austin, but I moved out to the country. And
Okay. Who Texans call Llano, right?
yeah.
Exactly.
The Spanish is Llano.
That's right.
I wanted to say thank you so much for having this.
Mhm.
And I think the coronavirus is teaching me so many things about how we may respond to climate change.
Mhm.
You know, to drive to Austin and be in traffic and try to find parking and all those things that go with going to a center.
Yeah.
This is kind of amazing because 2 of my Buddhist groups are doing this. And I know we need to practice physical distancing right now, but not necessarily social distancing.
That's right.
And anyway, I just wanted to, yesterday I felt some despair and sadness, but
Sure.
I've done 2 of these things. And I fortunately do live in nature and it's incredibly beautiful.
And we can
I
see
just
the
wanted to
country behind you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. And I hope, I think, you know, society will survive the coronavirus. It's going to be challenging.
Mhm.
But I think in terms of the planet, if you could provide more of these
Mhm.
things that the fact, like so many people have said that we're connecting with people
Sure.
all over.
That's
That's
the
really all
direction we're going.
sorry.
That's the direction I hope that we'll be going. So we may
Yeah.
not be in the same room, but we're completely in each other's hearts.
Right. I had a friend who went to a like a climate change protest, and he said, you know, the irony was that they had all driven there, and so I do think I just feel a tremendous amount of gratitude, and I want to thank you for doing this and providing such a wonderful talk. Thank you. That's really all I have.
Sure. I'll say one more thing, and this is for others in addition to you. It's just a reminder, a practice reminder. When you talked about those moments when despair does come, and we practice so that our own Buddha nature, our own true nature, our own truest self has at least a little foothold so we can turn toward the part that feels the despair.
Yeah.
And care that just like we would someone on the outside. And we feel it fully. Don't push it away. Meet it. That's the welcome.
Right. But oddly enough, I think the despair gets us out of our comfort zone and our habitual patterns. And so I can embrace.
It wakes us up.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ah, Maria. There she is.
I think I've done it right, have I?
From the UK again.
That's right. Hello.
It's good to see you.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right. Yeah. I just got that sense of urgency in my body to connect and to respond to you being there, and I
Just
could not.
to reach out. You want to reach your hand?
Yeah.
Get touch.
Yeah. There's so much of me sort of running away,
Right.
and then there's that pulsing that I get that says, "Come towards," and
Yes, yes, absolutely.
and seeing Trudy and Josh as well was really
Oh,
lovely.
yeah. Yes. And how are you well?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I'm myself isolating and noticed that I've had a sense of urgency in my body all week since, for the last couple of weeks since all this has
Yeah.
begun, and kind of working really hard to not turn that sense of urgency into an action that might cause suffering, like stockpiling, for instance, or like this feeling needs to do something. It needs an action.
That's a really important point, Maria, that we can all feel these various energies that pull us. And sometimes it's really useful to wait and give ourselves a little space. A wholesome direction will come. It's a little bit like the three tenets of the Buddhist peacemaker order. First, beginner's mind, don't know. Don't go in with an idea. Then bear witness. Oh, urgency. I feel urgency. Bear witness, and then compassionate action. But so often we have ideas and act without making the space. So you're talking about a very sane response. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of, it's this continuous act of coming back to my breath.
Yes.
And breathing and grounding and noticing what that is, and noticing what my impulse is, and bringing that back to center, and not creating like the self-centered thought, only suffering, isn't it? It's kind of like there's going to be nothing left for me. There's no toilet rolls. I don't have any toilet rolls. I've got one left. But I only need one, don't I? So it's that thing, everyone's buying certain things, and it's like, well, there's another way around that. I can do something about that. I don't need to start stockpiling myself. I don't want to join in to make the problem more difficult for everybody else. But it's really hard, isn't it, when your body starts going, come on, do something. This is urgent.
That's right. It's like the energy that doesn't know what to do with itself.
Yeah.
But it wants to find a channel.
And that's why I really get this stockpiling and why people are doing this, because that energy is big and it needs some release or something. And if you're not aware of, or take a moment to pause with it.
And what are you noticing about the energy now that we've made a connection?
Yeah.
What do you know?
Yeah. And it's that same energy, you know, when you came on and it was like, should I connect? Should I? It's like, oh, coming up in me. And, and I thought, no, I'm going to press that button. I'm going to press that hand, and then my heart's been going. I'm going to be worn out after this because my heart's been going the whole time waiting.
Well, that's called aliveness.
Yeah.
You're quite alive.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see you. And I was with you the other night with one of your talks. I think it was Saturday night, and it was so lovely to.
But it is recorded if you want to hear
it. Yeah. So it's just so nice to see you, and you've no idea how helpful the talks are on Appamada. I've been listening to them, sitting with them, and it's been bringing me back and really holding me. So thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
It's just amazing to have the resource. And seeing everybody else is just incredible. Really incredible.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much. You too. You too.
Yeah. And I also see that it's we've come to the end of our time. There might be more people in the queue. I'm so sorry that we've come to the end. I want to just remind us a bit of this sense of welcome and deep care. You can hear that the gratitude is sort of overflowing as we open the channel for it. It's like releasing a dam, really, of care and love that's available when we open to it. And I certainly appreciate everyone's willingness. And as I said, I won't be available at this time for the next couple of weeks, but we'll work out some other times, and we'll make sure that you find out about them. And let's see, John Eric, was there anything else that you'd like to do to complete?
Yes, thank you, Flint. So just a reminder to everyone, this has been recorded and will be posted on the Appamada website. I've sent out the link in the chat panel. It's under the teachings area. And also a reminder that Appamada is completely supported by your generosity. And if you'd like to make a contribution to support Appamada and Appamada's teachers, you can go to the contribute page on the Appamada website, which has also been shared on the chat panel.
Yes, and I appreciate your support in moderating this for us.
Happy to.
Thank you for that. You know, when we end, sometimes we will offer a kind of a loving kindness practice. And I will, any of you that are still online, if you want to do it with me, we'll do that to complete. The way we start it is we put our hands on our chest or our hearts. And at home, you can say it with me. I'll say it, you say it, we won't hear you, but you can say it to yourself. May this body be at ease. And may this heart be open. May this mind be boundless. May this being awaken. And if you open your hands as you're offering a gift, and if you could see so many people around the world right now, if you could see all of them, then we say, may your body be at ease. May your heart be open. May your mind be boundless. May you awaken. If we're in a circle, we would hold hands, which we're not able to do right now. So if you'll hold your own precious hand, knowing that it's a symbol of holding others' hands, and then repeat again, may our bodies be at ease. May our hearts be open. May our minds be boundless. May we awaken together. And then offering to everyone everywhere, all around the world, may all bodies be at ease. May all hearts be open. May all minds be boundless. And may all beings awaken together. Goodbye until next time. Take my love with you.